Hey Laura, thanks so much for joining us today. Could you just remind us about where you currently are working and what working life is for you at the moment?
Sure, Andrea. Yeah, so I'm working as an accident and emergency consultant down the road, but still here in Scotland. And I started that in about September time.
Excellent. So you've had a few changes to contend with over the last few months.
Yeah, things have been quite new.
So I'm really interested to find out a little bit more about just how day-to-day working life has been impacted by COVID-19, and maybe how the day-to-day running of things for your line of work has changed and what it's looking like just now.
Yeah, okay. So work was pretty busy before this all happened. We were coming out of the winter time, and in the accident and emergency and in the hospital in general and in primary care, that's a really busy time. And then when we went into this, actually we've seen that we've got fewer patients coming through the door at the moment, and that's really, really strange for us. So this is a situation that I have never been in all of my 10 odd years of working. So that's really strange. But there's a lot of positivity, and we're using the time as efficiently as we can to do other things whilst we're at work.
Excellent. It's funny, I guess, for us that are watching from the outside and looking into our wonderful hospitals and wondering what's happening. It's lovely to know that there's good support and there's good teams that are looking after us all at a time like this. Looking further ahead, it's possibly a little difficult to ascertain as to where this is all headed. But longer term, what impact do you think this is going to have for your day-to-day work and for the NHS at large?
I think that's a really good question, and you're right, it is a bit difficult to predict that at the moment. I have concerns about the future beyond sort of the next 4 to 6 weeks, because I think it is going to be really important to get us back to outside the hospital what seems to be more normal life, and we need to really try and work on that, and to make sure that people aren't afraid to go back to their normal lives. But in the hospital, we're going to continue to see patients with breathing problems and not necessarily know quickly whether or not that is something that's very infectious causing that, like COVID, or whether it is the same kind of breathing problems that we see on a day-to-day basis. So at the moment, for example, what was one emergency department is kind of split into two. There's the possible COVID side, and then we're trying to keep everyone who we don't think has got a chance of having COVID elsewhere. So one of the concerns that I have is that society is going to go back to everybody mingling, but I'm not sure whether or not we're going to be able to go back to that kind of having everyone in the same place together. And that in itself creates anxiety amongst the staff, or has the potential to do so, because they want to look after patients to the best of their ability, but they also want to look after themselves and their families. And one of the things that's been really different about this time and different about this crisis, because we have them actually a lot in the NHS and in the hospital, we have quite a lot of crises. The one that's different about this is that people aren't just worried about their work and their patients, but they're worried about their families as well. So the healthcare workers and the key workers are worried about how this is affecting their families and their home lives.
So how can we be praying intelligently for this situation? Because it sometimes can feel a little overwhelming. What sorts of things would be useful for us to be praying as we're thinking about our NHS and our key workers at this time?
I think the things that worry me about the future are that fatigue is not too big of a problem, because at the moment everyone's got lots of passion and energy for doing this right and trying to be positive. And naturally, passion and energy fades as time goes on. People haven't necessarily had the best rest at the moment and the best opportunity to use the things that help to relax them. So people who would go hill walking haven't necessarily been able to do that. People who would get together with friends haven't been able to do that. So in the future, for healthcare workers and key workers, one of my worries is that we all are able to treat this as a marathon and not as a sprint, and that we're able to especially look after our bodies and our minds, because this is a real risk of there being problems with mental health both now and down the line as well, when it comes to, because people are so conscientious about their jobs and want to do the best for patients, but these are very tricky times.
Thanks, Laura. It's really interesting to hear a little bit of the inside of what's been going on. And what about you? Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on for you personally, and maybe how just COVID-19 has been impacting your life just now, outside of the hospital as well?
Yeah, well, I keep joking that as a single woman in my 30s, I haven't really seen a difference because I still go to work, I still come home to an empty house, I still cook myself the same meals, and maybe I just don't see my friends as much. So I haven't got any kids doing homeschooling and all that sort of thing, and I'm very actually pleased about that. For me at the moment, I was hoping that I would have moved closer to my new job by now. I actually have people who are waiting to get into my house here, and because of the current restrictions, we have decided, they and I have decided, that we're going to stay put just now, because we don't feel that we can justify moving, and we're trying to, I'm particularly conscious of trying to make sure that I am not, as a key worker, seem to be abusing any opportunities there. But I do expect that hopefully my sale will go through in the future. What's hung up at the moment is my purchase. So I'm actually trying to buy a house nearer to the hospital, and there are a few bumps in the road there, which I'm just praying that they're all going to smooth out, or that it will become very clear that that's not the house for me, and that God will just direct me to wherever He does want me to be.
Yeah, we'll pray for you, Laura, in that, just that your house move arrangements will unfold as God needs them to. And is there anything that you feel that God's been really laying on your heart during this time? Anything that you feel that you've been challenged by or are learning?
I think whenever, now in the job that I'm in, I find whenever I feel that I'm being stretched a little bit outside what I have previous experience of, then I suppose I'm very conscious that the way I react to that is an opportunity to witness. The people around me are fantastic, but some of them maybe don't know me that well. Some of them might not know that I go to church or that I'm a Christian. So I'm trying to just make sure that I use some of the skills that God has given me to then actually be a good witness for Him. And if that's staying calm, or if that's acting quickly, then just to try and be mindful that those are gifts that He's given me, and He's given them to me for a reason. So I suppose that's one of the things that I've been learning is just to use those as wisely as possible.
Thank you so much, Laura, for sharing with us this morning. We just really appreciate your time. We appreciate all that you're doing along with all your NHS colleagues, and we'll continue to pray for you personally with all the things that are going on in your life, and for your NHS colleagues as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Andrea.